Hi everybody, it's John Longo and welcome to Kettle Bottom Outdoors. Today we're going to talk about turkey vests. This just happens to be mine and I'm going to show you what I like in my turkey vest. I like the vest style as opposed to the jacket style, and it certainly gives me ample storage and has a sitting pad. You're going to be sitting for a long period of time and having a comfortable pad is just a necessity. One of the most important things that I want in my vest are my ammunition and my calls. You're basically walking into the woods with an arsenal of different calls with different tones, and you are hoping to find that one call that gets the attention of that gobbler and makes them all excited and starts coming in. Locator calls, turkey calls, diaphragm calls, box calls, push button calls, slate calls. There's a million different styles out there. The first thing I want to talk to you about today is locator calls. These calls are used to locate birds very early in the morning. I have here a crow call and an owl call. So here's a crow call. Sounds like a crow. A lot of times that'll get a gobbler all excited when he's still in the roost. The other good early morning call is an owl call. The words to say when you're blowing into the call is who cooks for you. Two really great calls to have in your vest. So the second type of call that a lot of you guys probably use is the slate calls or glass calls. Here's a nightingale old yeller, which is one of my favorites, and here's kind of your typical slate call. Just as important with friction calls are going to be your strikers. Every striker should be paired with that particular call. I have found that this particular striker actually works the best with the slate call. I just put a little S on the top, and that means slate. This is the striker I use with the slate call. This is for my old yellow. Every time. Particularly in this kind of call, every once in a while you gotta rough it up so you can get some more texture in the call. I've got two things. I've got a really rough emery cloth, and that's for my glass call. And then I've got less rough, and I just rub it across that a little bit, and you can see I get some more ridges in there. So if you need some in-field maintenance, just throw a little piece of, high grit sandpaper in and it can rough up your calls. So now let's move to the push button calls. These push button calls are very, very popular. They're extremely effective. Here's one. It's a Pushpin Pro Yelper from Quaker Boy. Nice call. Now here's another one. And this is an easy Yelper, and you can tell the sound is completely different. So here's another one. This is an HS Strut plastic call. You can see it's made out of plastic, but it's got kind of a higher pitched tone. You can see that it's a completely different tone, different resonance. This is a Quaker Boy curved lid Raspy Shorty turkey box call. So these box calls are very effective, very popular, and work really, really well. You can get so many varieties of these. Some are made out of different woods, mahoganies, and they all produce a different sound. You can see on this particular one that you've got this surface here, this curved surface, and that's actually chalk. I keep a little piece of chalk in there because this will wear off, and as it wears off, it'll change the sound dramatically of the call. Great sounding call. Same thing, but this happens to be a waterproof call. And as you can see here, it's got a coating on it. So you don't need chalk, but this is the same type of call, works in the same way. So every one of your box calls are going to be a little bit different in tone depending on the construction of the call, the type of wood that's used, and the surface that you're using. The other call that I use quite often are diaphragm calls. The kind of advantage of a diaphragm call is that you're hands-free, particularly at that last 100 yards. We're basically going to take our tongue and put it just underneath this. Put this at the top of our mouth, and then we're going to blow air over the top of this by using our diaphragm. I've got this kind of cool little pouch that hangs off the vest, and it has all my diaphragm calls in it. Oh, there's one other call that is kind of like the last resort call. I don't use it very often. If you're hunting on public land, it can be a tad dangerous, and that's a gobble call. This is made by Primos, who makes some beautiful calls. That might bring them in. We got 3 push pin calls. I've got at least 2 box calls. I've got at least 2 friction calls. I've got a half dozen different kinds of diaphragm calls. I've got my locator calls. The reason I have so many different calls in is I never really know which call I'm going to get a response from. But once you do, that's the one you stick with, and hopefully can bring the bird all the way in for a clean shot. The one thing that turkeys don't do well at all is see at night. So get in early. You go in at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, and you've missed prime turkey hours. And having a headlamp's a good idea. So the other thing I keep in the back of my vest, other than the trusty toilet paper, big garbage bag. If you're lucky enough to bag that bird, the traditional way is just to sling it over your shoulder. Well, that's probably going to end up with a whole bunch of blood on the back of your jacket and your legs going down if it's wet. You can also put this down on the ground and then put your pad on top of it. Wearing a little fluorescent orange on the way in and on the way out, excellent idea, particularly on public land. So that's basically my vest. What's in your vest? Put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Again, my name is John Longo with Kettle Bottom Outdoors. Have a great and safe turkey hunt, and get outside.